Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1, or should I say Stop and Go F2, as it's now time to talk about the Formula 2 for the Imola GP. A weekend that I don't think will be remembered as an all-time classic, not really up to the standards of a usual F2 weekend. A weekend that may be remembered more for the action in the pit lane than more than on the track, especially considering what happened into the feature race. We'll get into all that and more as we go through the video. Before we get into that though, remember to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll have the F1 video out later on this afternoon, rounding up all stuff F1. But let's get into F2. Starting with yesterday's sprint race, and it was Amaury Cordial on pole, Colapinto alongside. It was an interesting one because qualifying was all over the place considering track limits. You had the likes of Antonelli and Bearman who had their track times deleted and then they were just brought back hours later. No one's really sure why. So that was a whole big mess. But we eventually got the grid, and as the lights go out for the F2 sprint, it's a really bad start for Colapinto, but a great start for Paul Aron, who goes from P3 to P1 into the first corner. But behind him is a huge crash. We have loads of people out on the start. Hauger was out, Fittipaldi was out, Hadjar was out, Stanek was out, and Dirksen was also out. It looked like it was Stanek and Hadjar that started the incident, where they hit, I think it was Hadjar went into the back of Stanek all the way around, can't quite remember, but they hit, and then that caused a domino effect of people braking, and just a massive accident there at the start. Someone else who had a bad start was Kimi Antonelli. He would start P6, but by the end of lap 1, he would be P12, a really slow getaway for him. Of course, this does bring out the safety car. That after the huge crash, the safety car, which has featured so much already in the F3 race. If you want the F3 roundup, that's available on the channel now. You can watch that after this one. The safety car would come in on lap 6, and Paul Aron, masterful behind the safety car. He goes really early and gets a fantastic getaway. Further back, Cordial goes quite wide and goes into the gravel and would lose P2 to Franco Colapinto. We get a 10-second time penalty for Pepe Marti for a starting procedure infringement, and Marti just goes into the pits pretty much instantly to serve that penalty, and he's just gone from there on out. Zane Maloney has an incredible move from the outside of turn 1 on Amaury Cordial. That's for P3. Then on the last lap, it is Aron in the lead, Colapinto right behind him, and Colapinto makes a fantastic move to take the lead on the last lap into turn 1 to win the race. So Colapinto wins the sprint from Aron in P2, Maloney P3, Cordial P4, Taylor Barnard. Is it? No, it wasn't. It was Bearman in P5, sorry. Bearman P5, Bortoletto P6, Barnard P7, Verschoor P8, Miney P9, and then Zach O'Sullivan in P10. But Taylor Barnard would get disqualified from the session for, I think it was a starting procedure infringement or something. I can't quite remember. Something leading up to the start of the race they did wrong, so they had to disqualify him, which is a shame for him there to lose those points. But like I said, it wasn't really the most exciting race. We had the huge crash at the start, and then it was kind of just people falling into place, and then that incredible move at the end. We had in both F3 and F2 yesterday last lap moves to determine the winner of the race, which is pretty cool to see. But elsewhere in that race for F2, not too exciting. And it's a shame to say, the feature race kind of followed the same format, if I'm being perfectly honest. As we get to the feature, it is Bortoletto on pole with Bearman alongside. In terms of the championship leader, Zane Maloney, would start 6th. Paul Aron is second in the championship, he'd start 8th. And Dennis Hauger is third in the championship, he's starting 13th. As the lights go out, it was an awful start for Bortoletto, who goes down from P1 to P4, and Bearman is able to take the lead and control the race from there. Dennis Hauger is pushed wide onto the gravel, then when he comes back on, he pushes Miata out wide himself. That's on lap 2. We go to lap 7, this is when some of the pit stops start. We have Hadjar, Dirksen, Maloney and Stanek all pitting on lap 7. Then lap 8 is when the chaos starts. More pit stops. Bearman, Bortoleto, Colapinto, Barnard, Fittipaldi, Crawford, O'Sullivan and Miata all pit on lap 8. And this is when it just goes awfully wrong for Bearman. Pitting from the lead, and he stalls twice in the pit lane. Comes out in 21st place. And just really, I think, either doesn't have the pace from there or just can't be bothered from there. That's his race over. He'd gain a few positions due to other things outside of his control. But yeah, that is Bearman going from leading the race to out of the race completely. And, it hurts because I am a big fan of Ollie Bearman. I have been for quite some time at this point. And, you'd expect going into this year that this is kind of the year he'll be battling for the championship, and it's really just not gone well for him at all. We had Bahrain, where the Prima were just off the pace entirely. Saudi Arabia, he takes pole, then gets the call up to Ferrari, gets points for them, but still remains pointless in F2. In Australia, I think he got some points in the sprint, then gets a penalty and gets no points. Then in the end, he had 1. He got some points in the sprint here, and then nothing here for the feature. We're still at an early point in the season, and if F2 has told us anything, it's like it's never really over for anyone until it's over. But Bearman will need a dominant display in Monaco next weekend if he wants to have any claim to the F2 title before the end of the year. The one shining light for this, for Ollie Bearman and fans of Ollie Bearman, is that it probably doesn't matter. I imagine that he's already signed for Haas next year. I think he's in F1 next year, no matter what. I think he could score no points for the rest of the season in F2, and he's in F1 next year. But, it would be nice for him to have a good final year of F2, and it's really just not gone his way thus far, the majority of the time, out of his control. So, a shame to see. Hopefully, Monaco will be the turning around for him, and he can get some good momentum in this championship. Back to the race, though. And back in the pits, on lap 9, it was Antonelli, Verschoor and Dennis Hauger. We have a 5-second penalty for Kushmaini for a false start. Although later on in the race, this would just be taken away, so apparently it's not a false start. Now we start the battle of Stanek and Zane Maloney, and my God, this lasts forever. Stanek was swerving on the straight, for sure. Maloney complained about this. And it looked like, I think it was under investigation, but we haven't heard anything yet. Not that it makes too much of a difference, because both of them would finish outside the points. But Stanek was definitely swerving on the straight. It was obvious for everyone to see. And the fact that it didn't get called out earlier is quite surprising. Stanek holds up Maloney for so long that Crawford is able to join the battle there. And Crawford is now attacking the back of Maloney and gets past him on lap 21. And charges after Stanek himself, and on lap 25, 4 laps later, Crawford is able to get past Stanek, and then a few laps after that, lap 28, Maloney is still trying to get past Stanek, and just can't do it. Now, we have the guys started on the medium tyres coming into the pits now. Correa pits on lap 29, and then Cordeal pits from the lead on lap 31, and there's something cursed about this race. If you pit from the lead, it goes wrong, because his right rear tyre was not connected when he pulled out of the pit box, and the tyre goes flying off the car, and he is out. Only 3 wheels on the wagon there. The most interesting thing about this, though, is the right rear tyre goes off the car, flies up in the air. As it lands, it hits the left rear tyre, which is on the ground, of Pepe Marti. Pepe Marti's coming into the pit. The mechanic has it behind him to swap the tyre. Because it hits the tyre, it puts it ever so slightly out of place. So Marti's mechanic there is a bit delayed in putting that tyre on because his tyre's out of place. The team don't see that. They let Marti go, and his tyre also flies off. So at this point, we have 2 cars stuck in the pit lane with only 3 wheels on, and they're both out of the race. So all the big major events of this race actually happening in the pit lane. Bearman stalling twice. Cordeal and Marti, tyres flying everywhere. So it's really quite chaotic in the pit lane. But on the track, something even more unpredictable has happened, everyone, because Maloney is finally past Roman Stanek. If we go back though, Villa Gomez pits from the lead, and this allows Isaac Hadjar and Gabriel Bortoleto to now fight for first place for the end of the race. Bortoleto all over the back of Hadjar from lap 33 for P1, but in the end it is not enough, and Isaac Hadjar goes on to win the race here, the feature race in Imola. Bortoleto coming home in P2, and Dirksen, of all people, in P3. A fantastic podium for him. Kimi Antonelli picking up good points in P4. Colapinto P5. Paul Aaron continues to pick up good points. The rookie is now P2 in the F2 Championship. I think he's only like 5 points off the back of Maloney. So a fantastic season thus far for Paul Aaron. Crawford in 7th, Correa in 8th, Victor Martins, fantastic recovery from 22nd to P9, Richard Vershaw P10. As for hero of F2, I find it very difficult. There was no one who kind of stood out as someone who was fantastic this weekend. Of course, Hadjar won the race. I think Bortoleto is doing a fantastic job in this rookie season for him thus far in F2. Dirksen has a fantastic podium as well. But I think the hero of F2 for me this weekend, I think I'm going to give it to Colapinto, because I think the moment of on-track action that I'm going to remember from this weekend is definitely that last lap overtake on Paul Aaron to win the sprint. And if you aren't aware of what our hero of F2 is, it's not the person who's necessarily the best, but the one who was the most entertaining. And I think for me it was Colapinto with that move in a weekend to forget, really, for Formula 2 in all other aspects. So there you go. Colapinto is the hero of F2 for this weekend. As I said, I'll be back later on today for all things F1. Looking forward to that. It's set up to be quite a good race. Until then, though, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.